So you want to buy an EV and drive it as a taxi. We're going to talk about incentives, range, charging, should you buy your own or lease, and the differences of being a solo driver or to rent it out or share with another person. Hello, I'm Marcus. This is Tesla Simplified. Thank you to all the new subscribers and welcome everyone. If you're into EV content, please take a look at my other videos where I talk about all things EV and beyond. Now let's get into it. I will be talking mostly about the Tesla Model 3 and Y because I own a Model Y and I can attest to how good they are. But most of the information here is transferable to other battery electric vehicles. The Model Y's range is 330 miles when you first buy it. After 6 months or a year or so, that range will drop to 297. Considering that you can't use the battery from 100 to 0 every single day, that range will go down to 237 miles in a real-world driving after a year. So that's the range you have to work with in the real world, 237 miles. I will be doing a range test this weekend to see the range with the Model Y, with the long-range Model Y, in the city driving situation, with the stop-and-go traffic, waiting for passengers, etc. I will also see how long in hours I will be able to drive. I will estimate drop-offs and pickups and also waiting for passengers. So please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And while you're here, why not just give this video a like to help the channel? Thank you. In this video, I will try to give info on things you may not realize should be part of your decision making when researching for an EV. So let's start with the different types of electric vehicles: BEV, PHEV, and HEV. So the BEV is what I'm talking about here, and I think is the best option, is the battery electric vehicle, a vehicle that does not have a gasoline engine. All it has is an electric motor and a battery, and a large battery. The PHEV is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and it has a small battery and a gasoline engine. These aren't very good because they are the worst of both worlds. Maintenance will be a lot more, and it's just a more complex system. An HEV is simply a gasoline car with a regen braking ability, which doesn't help very much at all. So if you can't plug it in, just forget about it. So should you buy, loan, or lease? Buy obviously goes without saying. If you can afford to buy an electric car, it's much better to buy so you don't have to pay interest. A loan. Interest rates are high right now, so you should probably put down the most you can and pay back as fast as you can. Interest rates are probably going to be very high for the next year or two. So the first thing people talk about when they are talking about electric cars is the charging. So let's take a look at this chart. Since we already talked about range, we're going to talk about price. So on the left side, you'll see if you pay for electricity in the price per kilowatt hour. This is the price most of us pay when you're charging at home. So right now, I'm paying 4 cents per kilowatt hours. If you do the math, that would translate to about 36 cents per gallon. Now, how do I get this? It's 36 cents per gallon because my car, the Model Y, the Tesla Model Y, if I'm only paying 4 cents per kilowatt hour, it will go 30 miles and it will cost me 36 cents. And an equivalent gas car will cost an entire gallon to go those 30 miles. The price per gallon today in my area is about $3.50 or $3.60. So I'm paying about 10 times less in my area. So I'm doing a per gallon equivalent because I just think it's easier for most people to understand how much they're paying, because you can compare this to how much you're paying at your pump right now. So if you're paying $5, let's say you live in California and you're paying $4 a gallon. If you're paying 10 cents per kilowatt hour, that means that you would pay 90 cents instead of the $4. So just look at these numbers, find out how much you pay per kilowatt hour, and then see how much you're paying at the gas pump. And this is more or less how much you would pay for electricity. So this is for the home charging. If you're for the DC fast charger, um, such as Electrify America or Tesla Supercharger, it's a lot more. You're paying 20 cents all the way to 55 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you're DC, if you're a taxi driver and you have to charge, you can't charge at home, and all you're doing is fast charging, you're paying a lot more because you're probably paying about 35 cents is the average cost. So you're paying about $3.15 to go that same 30 miles, which is about a price per gallon. So it doesn't really help you all that much as far as gasoline is concerned. The savings, the gasoline savings for an electric vehicle comes from charging at home. If you constantly have to plug in at a supercharger or in any DC fast charger, you're going to not be saving a lot of money on gas. If you're finding this video informative, please give a like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. It would really help the channel. Thank you. So now let's talk about how many drivers and different situations. First situation is one driver that owns the battery electric vehicle. So obviously the two main reasons are maintenance and gas. And obviously gasoline costs a lot more. For me, I'm getting a break of 72% on the electricity that I normally pay for my house. And I live in New York City. That it would normally cost me 14 cents per kilowatt hour. For my car, I'm only paying 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So Con Edison has an incentive for people who have electric cars, and other places have the same thing. I believe in Chicago is only 7 cents per kilowatt hour at the moment. So it's a great deal. If you're the sole driver, obviously you have to go home to go to sleep. When you do, you're paying very little and having the car charge. If you have a good charger, your car can charge in about 5.5 hours from a 10% state of charge to a 90% state of charge, depending on the charger. A Tesla wall charger can charge at 48 kilowatts, and that will charge your car. That will charge a large battery in about 5 hours. Obviously, if you have other chargers, it can take as much as 8 hours. My car takes about 8 hours to charge overnight because I only have a 32 kilowatt charger. So if you are a single driver and you want to rent the battery electric vehicle car, I wouldn't rent. If you have to rent, just make sure that you have a place to charge, because the constant DC charging and the rent is going to put a damp on your savings, and it's going to cost you time. You're gonna if you have to constantly stop and go to charge in the middle of your day and you can't plug in at all, it's going to you're not going to be happy. Especially since a lot of large cities, the supercharging, the DC charging situation isn't ideal. If you have battery electric vehicles in New York City, for example, and you have to charge in the middle of the day because your car is running low, your options are to either drive all the way to JFK, the International Airport, which is outside of the main area of your typical passenger pickup. Your other option would be to go. There's at least 4 or 5 places in the city for Teslas, but all of them you have to pay for parking on top of what you have to pay for charging. So that's obviously not ideal. Parking in New York City is not cheap. The other option that you have is to get out of the city, so you don't have to pay for parking. But if you get out of the city, you're usually paying a toll. So that's not ideal. So if you can't charge at home, it may not be a good idea to be buying an electric car at this time for you. It could be. You just have to do the math and figure out um, how is it going to work for you. And obviously, other cities in smaller cities in the U.S., this doesn't concern you. This is only very large cities, very dense and large cities. Let's talk about two drivers. Is it can you have two drivers and work 24/7 with a car, like a lot of people do with taxis? If your car is working 24 hours, then obviously you have to DC charge. And the problem there, if you only DC charge and you don't ever let your car charge slowly overnight, is that it'll damage the battery. And if you damage the battery, it'll cost $12,000 or more to replace the battery in some cars. Obviously, some cars have, depending on the car, the different prices and different size batteries. So, what about incentives? So, Uber and Lyft are giving really good incentives at the moment for the next year or two. So, Uber is giving $1 on every Uber ride up to $4,000 per year, per calendar year. If you're using Uber X, XL, Comfort, Green, Select Assist, WAV, Comfort, Electric, and Uber X Share. So Uber Eats is not included. Uber says that a typical driver on the app could expect to cover 100 to 130 miles in a day in a 2020 analysis done in London. So if that's true, if it's only 100 to 130 miles, then your car should be most battery electric vehicle cars should be able to run all day without having to charge. Uber also says that a 40 kilowatt hour battery can average around 140 miles per charge, whereas a 62 kilowatt battery can average around 219 miles per charge, which is very close to the numbers that I got from my car. But I will be doing a test in New York to see if this is actually true, that a driver will do 130 miles a day. I'm assuming they are thinking of an 8-hour work day. But I think most drivers would probably work more than 8 hours. Probably 10 to 12 hours would be a more accurate number. So Uber is really good at helping people find information about this. They have a really good website comparing cars and talking about range, charging speed, price, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to leave the description and in the video below. Uber also gets the Uber drivers, 45% off fast charging at EVgo sites. The problem is that EVgo is not really fast charging. It's faster than home, but much slower than Electrify America or superchargers. So even though it's called fast charging, it's not very fast. So what about Lyft? So what I found was that in California, Lyft has a $150 bonus if the driver completes at least 50 passenger trips, not deliveries, in a week using a personal electric vehicle. And this is until the end of 2024 with a maximum of $8,100. So that's $150 a week. It is equal to about $630 a month. That's a pretty good change. $10,000 down on a rear-wheel drive Model 3, your 60-month loan payment would be about $728. Subtract another $100 per month or more in brake pads and gas savings, and you're looking at a 1-year loan payment paid off for you by Lyft. So in theory, a drive could earn a bonus $12,100 from Uber and Lyft in a year for about a year or two. So what other incentives are there? There's federal, there's tax incentives, there's state incentives. I will leave a link in the description below for the Uber website because they go into this, and it's really good because you can just put in your zip code and they will tell you exactly what's available to you. For example, in Illinois, there's a $4,000 EV rebate program when you purchase a new electric vehicle. There's also the $7,500 federal tax credit that was just passed. In Illinois, they also have a $100 rebate when you purchase ChargePoint EV charging. In New York, there's $1,000 tax credit. There's help with financing. You can also use the HOV lane in New York with just one person if you're driving an electric vehicle. There's financing help. There's 1,700 rebate. So it's kind of hard to find all in one place, and Uber really did a really good job putting it together, and the information is pretty accurate for what I can tell. So that's it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, because I will be doing a range test with my Tesla long range Model Y this weekend to see the range in a city driving situation with stop and go traffic, etc. So make sure to like and subscribe for the results. Let me know if you disagree in the comments below. Till next time.